Okay, so there's a lot of updates that I want to go over and try and keep this short, so let's get straight to it. For starters, under the menus now, File just says close. Everything's moved under Options, and they're organized into these categories. Import, you're not really going to use. That's if you were just bringing in a ROM fresh and extracting all the text. Modify, we got two new sections here. The first one is these codes and tags. This is the replacement tags for the in-text translation. So I've already replaced a lot of the names, but some of these names are still these number codes. So if you find a name or if you have some issue with the tag, you just want to get super tricky, if you know what some of these codes mean, then you can just add a new tag for that. Call it the hello tag, and that would replace with hello. So then if you were to type in hello, then it's going to behind the scenes insert this code into the translation, and you would see the words hello appear on this in-game editor image. So one thing about this is when you're searching, you can type in the letters, but you can't use the open, this open and close square bracket right here. When you're searching, if you type that in, it'll cause it to crash. So don't do that. Just search for words and letters and numbers. The second one is this item names. This is your game items, the names of the items in the game. So you have to browse to this item name OFS file, and that's going to be in the root and then items folder. When you open that up, you'll get the list of the names. So these are the names of the items that have been translated into English. So if we run into a crashing issue with the length, if it needs to be shorter, then you can come here and you can edit the length of these items, change it to whatever it needs to be. So now it's only 13 instead of 20. Then you hit save. It will rebuild that file with your new changes, and then when you rebuild the ROM, it will include that file with your changed names. Then you have export. This is where you're going to go to rebuild your ROM to test the game. And then under database, we've got these three options. So backup, that will save a copy of your database into a backup folder with a timestamp, and then load a different translation database. You can browse to a different file, and it will open that one up with the edits in there. The only thing I want to say about that is be really cognizant of what copy you're working with. So if you have a testing one and an official one, just make sure you know which one you're working in, because you can destroy your data pretty easy in your official if you think you're in testing, or spend a lot of time translating if you're in testing and not realize that you put it in the wrong database. So just be really careful if you're gonna have multiple databases. Importing, that's something that I use. You're probably not going to use that. There's steps that have to be done after you import, so don't worry so much about that one. Then the last option is the user preferences. So when you first start using this, first thing you want to do is come into user preferences here, and that's a nice spelling of user, default user. So you're going to add your username, and that's going to store with your translations in the database, so we can kind of keep track of who is translating what. And the other option in here is if you're having issues with the way the program is displaying on the screen, you can try adjusting the different scaling options. And when you select a different option, then it's going to tell you need to restart the application. So just go ahead and give it a restart, and hopefully that fixes any scaling problems you might have. Okay, on to the editor. So we now have this section in here called permanent notes. And let's not do that one. So this, now you can type a note in here, and that will store permanently with that record. It's just like a translation how it stays, but it's just a note for you or for other people. And so when you come back to it, it will always be there. So I did go through the game 1 text, and I extracted it all and I lined it up with the file and the block index number here. And so where there was text, I included it in these permanent notes. So this is straight from the original game. And so then you can take that and use it to adjust the translation as needed so that it's more in line with the character rather than deep L's. So for the most part, they seem to line up pretty well. In some cases, you could see where the text was talking about the same thing, but it had obviously changed. What they were saying had changed. And so you may want to take the text as a reference and the deep L implying what they're getting at as a reference, and try and speak in the tone of the character to say the new thing. And then in other cases, it was just straight up not the same thing at all. So obviously do your best to just fit the text with what it needs to be for that translation. The other thing that I did, well, so we also have notes. You can search in the permanent notes. Nope, I gotta do our search properly. So I also went through with all the different spell names, and I searched for that Japanese text for that spell name in the I searched through all the text in Japanese for the spell name, and so anywhere that text appeared, then in the permanent notes I added a note saying that it may be talking about that spell with the actual name of the spell. So when we get to translating those spots with the spells, then it'll give you the name of the spell, so you can put in the correct name, because it's the spells aren't based on tags. They're just literally hard-coded, typed-in names. And so the spell might be called Mushroom, or it might be called Lucky, or it might be called Sleep. And so when you look at these sections to translate the dialogue, then it's going to give you a hint of, hey, this spell name for this is whatever popularity. However, things like the word lucky appear a lot more, or transformation appear a lot more in the dialogue than just as a spell name. So just be aware that it doesn't necessarily mean that that is the spell, but if they are talking about a spell, then that would be the official spell name. So that's about it, I believe. There may be other secret things you discover that I forgot to discuss, but I think that was all of my changes for the most part. So hope all of that helps. If you have any questions, you know how to get a hold of me.